Hello, everybody. I'm Mariette DiCristina, the Dean of Boston University's College of Communication. I'm also an alum of COM and the parent of a recent BU grad. Welcome to this afternoon's COMtalks event, The Evolution of Nollywood. This event is being recorded and will be available later on COM's website and YouTube channel. With a huge global audience within the Black diaspora, Nollywood is one of the fastest growing film industries in the world. Netflix has invested more than $40 million, for instance, to stream two categories on its platform, Made by Africa and Nollywood Movies and TV. How has Nollywood become such a powerhouse in a short time with a fraction of the money available to the US, India, and other leading film industries? And how will it maintain its position as the second largest film industry internationally in the world? And what is the future for Nollywood? Our expert panelists will explore these topics and more today. When you have questions, and I hope you will, please put them in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen rather than the chat. You feel free to put your questions in anytime, and there'll be plenty of time for it a little later in the conversation today. Now it's my genuine pleasure to introduce today's speakers. First, let's say hello to Frank Adekunle Macaulay, who's director and founder of Ninja Studio. Nice to see you there, Frank. Frank is an award-winning director, cinematographer, writer, and producer. He's also the founder of Ninja Studio, one of the first professional television studios in the Nollywood capital of Lagos. Ninja is a youth-focused movie and acting production studio that tells thought-provoking stories from Gen Z Nigerians' perspective. Ninja explores themes that the mainstream Nigerian entertainment industry might shy away from, such as in Unilife, the studio's debut drama 13-part series. The series is set in a fictitious Nigerian university. Frank is also secretly a great comedy actor and has invented a string of eccentric and fun Nigerian characters. Welcome to you. Now let's say hello to Mykel Parish, who's CEO and founder at Nollywood Travel Film Festival. When the world did not want to come to Nollywood, Mykel smiled and said, "No problem, I'll bring Nollywood to the world." So in 2017, the Nollywood Travel Film Festival was born. Its purpose is to promote Nigerian-made films and to drive international interest in the Nigerian film industry. Mykel's mission is to spread Nigerian cinema to every corner of the world. His festival has been in Greece, the Netherlands, Ireland, Canada, Germany, the UK, Norway, and here in the USA. Mykel's also an accomplished director, and to date has directed 4 feature films, including Where Men Rule and Open Secret. Welcome to you, Mykel.
Thank you so much, Mariette.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Here. Now let's say hi to Stanley Ajaere, who's director and cinematographer, who's actually coming to us from on the set. Stanley is one of Nollywood's leading filmmakers. He's an accomplished director, producer, cinematographer, writer, production designer, 3D animator, and editor. In his spare time, as if he has any, he runs his own international film festival called the Real Time Film Festival. He's made tremendous waves in the Nigerian film industry for the past 13 years, including Nigeria's first 3D animated feature film called Lifespan, then the nightmarish horror film called Capian's The Feast of Souls, and his most recent offering, A Tune Away. His films bring a really distinctive look and feel and style, and he's a maestro of light and shadow, and a storyteller who weaves deep mystery in his films. Welcome to you, Stanley. Now let's say hello to Kelechi Orhalum. Please forgive me, it's late in the day for me. Orhalum, who is a director and producer and a leading voice on the role, impact, and success of women filmmakers in Nigerian cinema. She has been an award-winning freelance producer, director, production designer, and theater practitioner, and she's also affiliated with Ninja Studio. Her most recent work is as an assistant director on a romantic comedy featuring Lara and Toby, which was screened at African Film Festival. She's also worked as assistant director for Sanitation Day and Tainted Canvas. And as a production designer, Kelechi's credits include Unge's War. She has served as a producer, director, and writer on the short film Mum. Kelechi obtained a bachelor's in theater and media art from the University of Calabar in Nigeria on a certificate in filmmaking from New York Film Academy. She's got an exciting next venture coming up, which will take her to the University of Cork in Ireland. Maybe she'll tell you a little bit more about it soon. And now, last not least, and hi, Kelechi, thank you for joining us today. Now let's say hello to our moderator, Tunji Akinsehinwa, who is a cinematographer and also associate professor of the practice in production in our film and TV and cinematography department right here at COM. He's worked primarily in the UK and across West Africa, including Nigeria, where he's accumulated a vast amount of production experience in documentary, location producing, and cinematography roles. He's worked for the BBC, Fox Media, CNN, Bloomberg Africa, Ebony Life, TV and Film, and MTV. Several of his films have won awards, including Ojuju, which won the Best Nigerian Film at AFRIF in 2015. He's finalizing his PhD titled The Cinematography of Nigerian Cinema, and is currently an executive producer on an African documentary film video clip show broadcasting in Nigeria, as well as a co-founder of a short form video social media platform called Mbozi.com. Now, Tunji, I turn the virtual mic over to you, and thanks again to all of our amazing panelists for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Mariette, for that sort of wonderful introduction. I was just about to say, where's Stan Lee? And Stan Lee pops up. For those of you who are wondering what Stanley's up to, Stanley's actually on location. He's filming a Nigerian film in Nollywood. For Nollywood, but he's actually on location in London. As you can see, it's nighttime because they're about 5 hours ahead of us. So I'm literally going to cut straight to the chase. We've got less than an hour, about 55 minutes or so, well, less than 55 minutes, about 40 minutes of talk, of questions and discussion. And then we're going to open up the floor to 15 minutes of questions. So for everybody here, welcome to what I probably think is the first time Boston has presented a panel, a talk on Nollywood or Nigerian cinema. So to my guests, first question coming up, and here it is. How did Nollywood grow to be one of the largest film industries in the world? How did it happen? And in the space of 30 years as well. Who wants to go first on that one? All right, I'm going to pick somebody. Mykel, you look like you're itching to answer, so go for it. I think Mykel's frozen.
Yeah, maybe let me start first.
Okay, you go, Kelechi. Yeah.
Okay, I will take mine from the past. Nollywood basically started from, I would say, the early 1980s, when we have the Yoruba touring troupe go around with their touring troupe, and they get to make a VHS or video of it, and people that are not present there will be able to watch. And gradually it kept going, and until the time we get to have the NTA channel, where we get to watch programs like the Papa Jasko, Village Headmaster. Gradually we get to have programs, TV shows like Fortunes, Checkmate, Ripples, Cockerel at the Dawn. But most people will tell you that Nollywood started from 1990s when the Living Bodies came on board. It was produced by Ike Nabwe. He's actually a trader and a businessman, but because of the passion he has for film and he have a way to distribute this, he decided to, okay, let's produce a film. We have the distribution way for it, and we'll get to record it on VHS, and we get to watch it on video player. Gradually, Living Bodies came on board. We have Taboo, we have the Circle of Doom, we have so many of them, and we kept going that way. And gradually we realized that Nollywood kept growing. It didn't just stop there. It kept, as new technology come on board, Nollywood keep growing with the new technology. Initially they would say, oh, Nollywood doesn't have the quality, but now we have the quality, and so now we still have the quantity. So it keeps growing to the present time where we have the wedding party. We have October 1st by Kunla Folayo. We have 30 Days in Atlanta. That was even also filmed in US, in Atlanta, US. So it's more like Nollywood and Hollywood coming together. So so I believe that Nollywood has come to stay and is there, and it keeps growing because so many blacks identify with it. Like if you go to the Caribbean, they believe more than us that are the Nigerians. They believe more in Nollywood than us, because anywhere you go into, anywhere you see, any shop you enter, any hotel, you get to see Nollywood films. Even on flights. Now, if you enter flights, you get to see Nollywood films. So it has come to stay. It's basically here and it's not going anywhere again. So that's what I believe about Nollywood. And that's the way it came on board to become the second largest film industry.
Okay, all right. Frank or Michael, do you want to add to that? Do you have a different approach or a different opinion on that?
Go
ahead. I'll come in after Michael.
Yeah.
Okay. There's not much to add because she actually made a very valid point. Nollywood did not start when Living in Bondage was made.
Yeah.
So I would say let me look at the Nigerian film industry in general. The Nigerian film industry started, way in the 60s. You remember back in 1945, if I'm correct, Albert Ogunde had started his theater group, and then he had toured Nigeria. And then after that, we had the likes of Jabadu, Olabalogo, Edu Boma. In fact, Edu Boma made some really brilliant films on 35mm, Death of the Black President, and several other films that, actually went international. So the industry slowed down a bit, and years later, it became the TV era where NTA had really great shows, Cockrell Dawn, Mirror in the Sun, and a lot of other programs until the first speaker had said, when Kenneth and Napoli decided that it was time to trade on certain products he had brought into the country and felt the right thing to do was make a film. Before then, Kenneth Napoli had been producing Yoruba films, and then he had then ventured into Igbo films with Living in Bondage, which became very successful, and actually, which is one of the films a lot of people talk about when they talk about Nollywood, because it was the point. Living in Bondage was more like the film that paved way for the current day Nigerian film industry. And then the term Nollywood was not known to the industry until 2002, where the New York Times journalist had done his research and heard about the Nigerian film industry, and then he likened it to Hollywood and Bollywood, and then coined the word Nollywood, which today a lot of us have come to accept and then associate with the Nigerian film industry. So it's a process. If you look at the Nigerian film industry and say, okay, Nollywood started in 1992, which is about the time they had produced Living in Bondage. So you'd probably say Nollywood is 30 years old or 31 years old. But if you talk about the Nigerian film industry, it's over 50 years, because even in the 60s, films were made by filmmakers. And then, in the 70s, Edu Boma actually, made great films that, were premiered in international platforms in the UK and in the US. So it's been a long time coming for the Nigerian film industry, and hopefully we would be able to do a proper documentary of our journey so far.
Yeah, thank you. Frank, you got anything you're going to jump on? Do you have anything to add more?
Yes, I'd love to jump on. So first of all, welcome everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. It's so good to be here. Thank you, Boston University, for giving us this opportunity to share our experiences around Nollywood. By the way, in 1903, Herbert Macaulay, by the way, who was the first nationalist, and if you look at my name is Frank Macaulay, my great-grandfather, showcased the first film to the public in Nigeria. And it was in 1903 in August, and it went on for 10 days. And he had invited a Spanish company called Balboa Film Unit. And that's where we kind of like started the cinema side of us in Nigeria watching movies. I remember growing up, we used to have Roxy Cinema, Plaza Cinema, Sheila Cinema, Penn Cinema. Quickly moving up, everybody has given us a bit more, a better sort of introduction as to, you know, how we actually got to be called. I just use the word Nollywood to signify Nigerian cinema and the film industry. It's just one word. It works for me. Recently, how did we manage to grow? Well, the reason is quite simple, really. Nigeria is 220 million people. You know, we have a large amount of population, plus add into that the African population and the Black diasporian population that have been dying to watch films where they see people from their own culture. So we've managed to grow. Congratulations recently to Tunji Ojuju. CJ Obasi recently was invited to the Sundance Film Festival. So we have come, you know, from 1903 to today, CJ, cinematographer, winning an award at Sundance. So yes, it's good to be here. It's good for Nigerian cinema, Nollywood.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to sort of like contextualize everybody. You might have heard Mykel and Kelechi mention Yoruba and Igbo and Hausa cinema. In Nigeria, there are three key tribes, and each one of those three key tribes has their own kind of like regional cinema within Nigeria, which more or less comes under the blanket name Nollywood. Although some people would dispute that, but that's kind of what the name is stuck, as Frank said. So that leads me to my next question, because we produce, or films in Nigeria made literally in their thousands. We make over 1,000 films a year, but obviously not the same budgets as the United States or anything. So I'm thinking of less is more. How do we manage to make that many films, and and how do we manage to not make most many films but have a worldwide, or at least I think a diaspora audience? I still make Stanley answer that, but he's not here. So sorry, but so someone else have a go at it, because we operate on the less is more. You know, our budgets aren't like
okay, I think I'm here now.
Okay. So so this Stanley has just joined us. Stanley's been on set. He's a bit flustered there. Your cinematographer's lit you quite well, more or less. So Stanley, you can actually answer, as someone who's made a lot of films, you can answer my next question. We're talking about less is more, and how even Nigeria can make over 1,000 films in a year, but we don't have the same budgets as, say, the United States or the United Kingdom. How do we manage to make that many films on? How do we make most of less is more?
I think it's the Nigerian thing. It's a template that even if you took that template to different countries and you documented it very well and give to people to replicate, they might not be able to replicate it if they don't have the Nigerian spirit. So what we call Nollywood is all about the Nigerian spirit. We call it cruise, the Nigeria cruise, and it's almost like if we want to get something done, there's nothing that can get in the way of us getting it done. Not the budget, not the restrictions, not anything. We want to get it done, we get it done. Within the space of when this session started and when I just turned on my camera now, we shot about 3 scenes. It was outdoor in the cold, and yeah, we just got it done. And that's it. Within HM
doing filmmaking.
I wish I could have shown you guys behind the scene, but it was just too busy. We were booming lights over the actor and all that. And at the end of the day, the shot looks nothing short of what you will get if you use the HMI. You get what I'm trying? So we're just that industry where people know how to get things done without being restricted. And again, is the fact that Nollywood, if you ask me, both from the first introduction to what the last person said, the whole concept of making films in Nigeria. So we had people like Ogunde, who was what I'll call an auteur, like he's a really artistic person that he wants to tell folklore in a very nice cinematic way. And even though, yes, he had the business part of it, which is in moving cinemas and moving theater, that was very good. But then when you go to the present, to the time of living in bondage, you had a businessman, a core businessman leading that parade. You get what I'm trying to say? So again, what we have today is a blend of passion, art and business, all interwoven in one. But again, the unifying factor in all of this is just that willingness and the zeal to go out there and get things done, irrespective of whatever limitations or challenges people might have. And that is what has dovetailed into the numbers that put us in the world map as the third biggest film industry in the world because of the numbers we churn out. Yeah, so I think that's a Nigerian thing, yeah.
Okay, just quickly out of curiosity, Stanley, what film are you shooting?
Ha 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 ha! I cannot tell you.
Come on now, give us.
I'm on set with Blessing Egbe. So it's Blessing Egbe's production. So I can't say much about it. But what we're actually trying to do, and is interesting that this is happening at the time when this whole session is happening. So we sat together and we're like, okay, fine, a couple of us, some people have relocated to the UK, some people are visiting, people come to make films. And what we're actually trying to do is to put some structure to it. A structure where it's more like all for one, one for all, and anybody coming around, and we have like you have like a slate of movies that are going to be made, and then people can vouch for their availability for a long period of time, and then you can make a couple of movies at the same time before people go back to their base. So again, this is still us doing the things that made Nollywood evolved into what it is today. And hopefully this might result in something else that is even bigger than what we can see at the moment. So it's a Blessing Egbe production. And we have on set Blessing Egbe, Chris and AJ, we have Tony Manjaro, former McDermott. So it's a very modest set. We are multitasking as much as possible, like we always do. But getting the best out of what we do, because of course, once again, we're on set again today, doing what we love to do, but not the money and what's the wages are not the things in front of our eyes. We want to do magic. But again, we have gotten to the point in the evolution of cinema and film that we know that, yeah, there are so many platforms that you can exploit to get your money back from the movies you've made. So even while we're filming, we're talking about, okay, let's explore this, let's explore that. So again, we're very knowledgeable about all the ways to make the money. And we're not restricting ourselves to the big streaming platforms, because sometimes, yeah, you can make money. So if we put a movie on like 50 different platforms for where they are all syndicated, get what I'm trying to say? It adds up. And for me personally, I feel like I'd rather have my film for a quarter of what Netflix would put me on so many other platforms than on Netflix alone, because that means I'm exposing my art to a wider audience. You get what I'm trying to say? And I'm building a following in different places rather than just on Netflix, where they might even restrict it to Nigerian audience alone. Yeah, so that's how much I can tell you about the project we're doing. It's a very interesting movie. It's going to be mind-blowing, trust me. And yeah, that's all I can say.
You heard it. You heard it from Stanley right here now, folks. Okay, and I kind of want to stick to what you're saying about putting our films onto different platforms as well as Netflix, because I'm going to come to the Netflix question later on, because I know we had a discussion about that, and as filmmakers, we're kind of worried about how Netflix is evolving in Nigeria in terms of Nigerian filmmaking. But the other thing is that what's interesting me is if you look at Afrobeats, which a lot of Afrobeat musicians are from Nigeria, like Burna Boy and Wizkid, etc., and that's taken the world by storm. They're playing all over the world. That music's playing all over the world globally. So do you think that it's possible? Do you think that Nigerian film or Nollywood film can reach that level? And that's
absolutely.
I'm going to kind of pick on Mykel on that one, because Mykel is the person who's literally taken Nigerian film around the world. So he must have, he's obviously got an opinion on that. And then, I mean, everybody can feed back on it, but I just like to start with Mykel first of all. Yeah.
So what do you want? What do you want? Which angle do you want me to take it from?
You can take it from any angle that you feel. I mean, you can take it from your angle because you're actually already taking Nigerian film around the world. You're actually doing it. What's
Okay, so for me, it's there's a possibility that a lot can happen with Nigerian films. For example, I've had the opportunity and privilege to take certain films to certain places where they've never seen a Nigerian film, and the response was really good. I want to make a reference of one film that I think should be a good reference point. So a few years ago, an Austrian filmmaker made a film called Joy, which eventually made it as the Austrian representation to the Oscars. Unfortunately, it was disqualified along the way. And that was a Nigerian story told by an Austrian filmmaker, and then it became the country's representation to the Oscars. Now, that means a lot. It means that our stories are unique and can become global. Look at what has happened with C.J. Obasa's new film at Sundance, and now it's getting a lot of good reviews, eventually to get good distribution. If you see what happened with Kunle Afolaya's film, Adekunle, that was on Netflix. It started like a joke, and eventually it became the most talked about film at that period on Netflix, globally. And then look at what's happening with Shantytown. Everyone is talking about Shantytown. In fact, some of the African platforms that I belong to, they've done, there's been a lot of great reviews about films like Shantytown, and all those films are Nigerian stories told in different ways. So I see a time where the Nigerian films will get an Oscars, and then there will be a big budget that will actually give us that status that we look at. If you look back at 1981, if you remember the film, The Gods Must Be Crazy, the South African film, I think it was done at that time with a budget of $5 million, and then it generated about, if I'm not mistaken, generated about $200 million. And why did that happen? It was because it was an original African story told. After that, there's really been no film from South Africa that has done that well. Now, the focus on Nigeria tells you that there's something about Nigerian stories that can be globalized. There's something about Nigerian stories and the way our stories are told that actually can become very commercial, and then we have major studios picking them up for proper distribution. Eventually, there's no doubt that Nigerian films would not do well. They're already doing well. There's a lot of co-production being discussed with a lot of filmmakers from Nigeria right now, from several countries, because of what they've seen on Netflix and Amazon, and the belief that, beyond the impression that Nigerians cannot make great films, Nigerians can actually make great films. You have people like Aki Omotosho, who's currently working in Hollywood, and had, come out of Nigeria, gone to South Africa. You have people like Robert Peters, who has just done a major production for an Hollywood studio. I don't want to mention it because I was privy to some of the information, but it's not released yet. But it's a major production, and then they had some sort of good budget. That is a Nigerian who started his Nigerian dream, from Jos, and then moved over to Lagos to join the industry, and then from Lagos he moved over to the US. I've seen some of the works Stanley had done premiered at Cannes.
Yeah.
You don't just your premiere, your film would not just go to Cannes if it's not a really brilliant work. You know, I've seen some works by some Nigerians, Ajaere, I'm trying to remember the name, the two brothers, Chukwu and Ajaere, I'm trying to remember the film. It had a major premiere at the Berlinale, you know, and so, you know, for me, I'm really, I'm not worried anymore. I know that the Nigerian film industry is going to get to its destination. We need to focus, like we always said, we need to focus more on the kind of stories we tell, because it's the stories we tell that will give us the kind of audience we want, you know. So we're there. We're there. I'm just trying to be careful not to use the wrong words, but I think the Nigerian film industry, you know, is getting closer to what we want to see it be like. The Afrobeat has done it, you know, with the Nigerian music industry creating and making so much impact. Nollywood, I still say it today, Nollywood is the only sector in Nigeria that's been studied in major universities, in Harvard, in Oxford. Nollywood is the only sector of the Nigerian economy that's been studied in major places. And of course, now we're discussing Nollywood at Boston. You know, I'm not sure you know, a lot of sectors in Nigeria get the kind of mileage and visibility the Nigerian film industry is getting. We just need to put the right structure, you know, get things done a bit, you know, better than it is, and then we'll have a boom.
Okay, thanks for that. That's a really good answer, Mykel. I'm just going to kind of like bring in a connector here because I hate to say this connected, but we're going to take it from a female perspective, because at the same time as because some of the key players, as we know, in Nigerian cinema are women. Okay, and I only have to mention Mo Abudu, and I also know that you have taken an interest in, you know, how we're making how women are making an impact in Nigerian cinema, and so they're very integral to what Mykel's saying. It's like a joint thing. Do you want to comment on that, about how women are making how women filmmakers in Nigeria are helping us sustain Nigeria filmmaking or Nigerian films as a worldwide, you know, a film industry for an international audience?
Yeah, I would like to say something, because a woman, and I'm African and Black.
Yes, you absolutely are.
So being in the Nigerian film industry or Nollywood, as we always say, it's been a gradual process, and at the same time it's been kind of difficult, challenging. You know, it's more like it's the men world, they used to say. But you know, now in the present time, we thank God that people like Mo Abudu, who, you know, came from the media perspective and went into the filmmaking, you know, have paved the way for the young female filmmakers to know that we also have a say in the industry. And apart from Mo, we also have the likes of Omoni Oboli, we have Rita Dominic, we have so many, we have Genevieve Naji. You know, I believe so much that the women too are really that are one of the biggest people pushing Nollywood to the international level where it is, through the likes of Mo, Omoni, Genevieve, and the rest. So from the female perspective, is very important for Nollywood to have the women filmmakers, because we also help to make it what it is today and what it's going to be in future. Yeah.
I mean, that's great, because as all you probably all know, I mean, we're not perfect when it comes to, you know, equality with, you know, between male and female, but what we can say is that some of the most powerful women in Nigerian filmmaking are actually women, and long may that continue. So thank you, Kelechi, for that answer. I'm just going to pop over to Frank, because Frank, you're kind of like the same thing. A question applies to you, because you built the first studio. One of the first studios, and Nigeria and most Nollywood for a long time has actually been, it's not like Hollywood where you can go to a studio, or even Bollywood where there's a massive studios. Nollywood is like Nigeria or Lagos or Enugu or kind of wherever you're shooting, but you've kind of like built a studio, which is probably a way of kind of like taking Nollywood to the next step, kind of like studio productions.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
I'm always very skeptical when things like you built the first, or you're the first, or please, I don't think I am the first. Let me just get that one out of the way. You know what I'm saying?
You're the second, Frank. We're the third, yeah.
That's whatever. But you know, I always knew, you know, deep down. Look, Nigerians, we are resilient. You know, if anybody knows anything about Nigerians and also Africans, we are resilient. You cannot tell a Nigerian that, you know, he cannot make it. It's impossible. They are always going forward. They are always believing. They always have hope. And that is one of the things that has driven us. And I'll just quickly bring in, before I talk about the studio, I'll bring in the fact that I remember when EMI and Polido and all these music recording companies left Nigeria, yes? And that also gave rise to the Nigerians having to do things on their own, which segues us into what has happened now in Afrobeat. I just believe it's just a matter of time before our style impacts a wider, the world. The world, it's a global village now, do you understand? But one of the things we know, living in bondage, you know, we have small screen and we have large screens, you know, understand? And so there's a transitionary period. The only thing in life that is constant is change, you know, life is ever changing. The Nollywood film industry in Nigeria is changing. You know, before it was a lot of piracy. You put out your movie, and as a producer, and you found it difficult to get your return on your investment. Well, with these new platforms coming in, and with the internet and, you know, Web3 around the corner, this is all going to change. You know. And with the resilient can-do attitude of Nigerians, it's just a matter of time that what we look at our music videos, you know, 10 years ago, you look at our music, look at them now. Do you understand? They are on par with any other music video in the world. That's just a matter of time for Nollywood to be on that level.
Thank you.
Infrastructure. That was what made me decide to build a studio, you know, and I said to myself, you know, I want to be able to give opportunity, yeah, to these, you know, half of the population in Nigeria is below the age of 18. Out of that 220 million, half of them are below the age of 18. And, you know, it's a struggle sometimes. And so I decided to build some infrastructure and allow people to come and learn filmmaking and give them that opportunity. So it's just a matter of time. I'll end there.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to quickly ask you the same question, Stanley, as a director who's actually making a film now. And that's same, you know, how do we, I think, yeah, how do we get our films to, how can Nigeria distribute its films to a global audience and attract a global audience? I'm going to ask everybody to kind of keep their questions short, because I've got a few more questions I'd like to ask you, that's why. So, but over to you, Stanley. Okay.
Okay, I think a good way to start would be what Mykel is doing. Afrobeat became popular because it traveled.
Yeah.
So musicians who were Nigerians but were based in Ghana or Germany or France or the US, and so wherever they went, they took the influence of Nigerian music. Nollywood is like, yes, it's homegrown. It's mostly consumed by Nigerians. Thanks to platforms like Netflix, more people around the world and Amazon can see Nigerian films. But nevertheless, there's something that happens when there's it's like grassroots engagement. So I think that's where things like the film markets and the film festivals, and then when we attend festivals and markets, do we just go to say we attended the festivals and the markets? Are we going there strategically? Are we going there intentionally? So usually when you attend the Cannes Film Festival, you have a Nigerian booth with the Nigerian Film and Video Censors Board and the Film Commission. But mostly what they are doing, they're just playing music. They're playing Nigerian music, and it's just like a groove, a party tent. But it's not intentional. We should be going there with catalogs of films with filmmakers who are carefully selected because of merit, representing Nollywood at those festivals and film markets. So people who come there can interact with them, and then they become ambassadors to the rest who are not there physically. You get what I'm trying to say? So if the films have to travel, the filmmakers have to travel, but then everything has to be strategic in its nature, not just going there. It has to be strategic, because that's what the musicians have done. They've been very strategic, and it has worked.
Thank you. Right, so some great answers there, guys. I'm just gonna kind of like change the tact a little bit, because I remember we had this discussion last week, and it was quite an interesting. Some of the answers you gave back were really interesting. So, what do you think? My next question is: what are the biggest obstacles to Nollywood at the moment for Nigerian cinema within Nigeria? What do you think? What is it we need to overcome? What are our biggest obstacles to Nigerian cinema? If you were to take it even from your own personal point of view, as filmmakers yourself, what would you say that is at the moment?
Well, for me, I think we need to get back to the originality of our stories.
Okay.
Because we're losing audience. And then, like Frank had said, back in the days, we had cinemas, people went to theaters, Nigeria had a cinema culture, but then the cinema culture was more for Indian films, and then there were Chinese films. At a point, there were cowboy films, but people went to cinemas to see film, and not just in very beautiful posh places like Victoria Island and Lekki. These cinemas were in Agege, Ajaere, Shomolu, and all those places where these days they tell you those people don't go to cinemas. It's not true. Those people, the people in inner cities actually crave for such opportunities to entertain themselves and have fun, and because back in the days, weekends you go to the cinemas in Ajaere or Reggae Cinema, it was filled up with people who bought tickets to watch film. I'm excited that that culture is gradually coming back. Recently, a Nigerian movie almost made $1 million. I don't know if by now it has made $1 million, but it shows that if we continue to tell the kind of stories that will resonate with Nigerians and then can be globalized, we would really get the kind of audience that we want, for our cinemas. It's it's important we go back to our roots and tell those stories that made us Nollywood. Stories about I don't like saying it, but the original stories about our traditions, Usman the Fodio, the origin, stories in Benin Kingdom, how the white people came into Benin, the story about the bronze, very unique stories. In fact, in Edo State alone, you can tell stories that will get the Oscars. In Ogun State, you can tell such stories that will grab an Oscars. In River State, we have, there's Jaja of Opobo story. There's the Nana of the Shekiri Kingdom. We're not telling those stories. And just like it's happening in Mali, where Hollywood will come tell the story of Mansa Musa, very soon we would have a problem, and Hollywood, would come into Nigeria and start telling our stories the way they want to tell the stories. At that point, we start losing that identity that we so much want to, protect. So it's very important for, I don't think the problem with Nollywood is financing. One way or the other, people still get, good financing for their films. I really don't think it's distribution anymore, because like Stanley had mentioned, there's so many platforms that you can sell your films. There's so many markets right now, from the Caribbeans to South America, to North America, to, across Europe. There are a lot of platforms, buying Nigerian movies. If you go on, online and tap Nigerian movies, you'll be amazed the number of languages you'll see in Hollywood movies. Some of the producers don't even know their movies have traveled that far. So it's important we go back to the originality of the stories we're told, and then uphold our culture and see, follow up the structures, people are putting up now with, making quality films with good story direction. The finances will come eventually for us. I don't think the problem is our finance. Our story is very important, to be told properly.
Absolutely, and that's one. I mean, it's one thing that most we say here, even at Boston, when we're teaching our film students, it's story, story, story. What you're telling. I'm just going to quickly. We've got about 15 minutes left. I will give you a chance to answer that question for the other panelists. I've just got a couple of questions here. One is from Sabrina Wood. She said, "I am an American film reviewer and podcaster. How can I get involved in promoting these films and festivals? I don't know where to start." Well, this is a good place to start. I can
I think in the room right now, actually in the room, we have two people who run festivals, so definitely is a good place to start. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I can, if Sabrina doesn't mind, I can give you and I can give her your details and Michael's details because they're both film festival specialists, as it is. Yeah. Okay, I can do that. Yeah. And I thought you could read off the other question. I'm not quite sure what they're asking, but it's from Chinello, who's he compliments you on your initial summary of Nollywood, Kelechi. And they say, I was wondering if including some early TV productions as Nollywood undervalues the impact of the plays, as we call them, then produced in Jos. I'm not quite, don't know if anybody understand that question. I'm a little bit confused by it myself. Anybody?
Yeah, I think the thing there is if I understand what this person is asking. So, for instance, right now you hear things like Kannywood.
Yeah,
it's still Nigerian filmmakers, but those who are based in Kano. Again, there's Nollywood, and then again that's where the conversation about Nollywood gets complicated. And people say, okay, this is what Nollywood is, this is what Nollywood isn't. So if it's Kannywood, are the guys in Kannywood Nollywood because they're Nigerians? Or are they not Nollywood because they're in Kano and they do not identify with every other person who's in Kano? So I think the whole wood thing, let's just talk about the wood. The whole wood thing is just a name that's been given to every Nigerian filmmaker. You understand what I'm saying? It's just a name that's been given to every Nigerian filmmaker. But again, within Nigeria, I can see conscious effort being made by people to identify themselves and isolate themselves as independent groups making films within Nigeria. So I think for the sake of everything, I've also come to accept the nomenclature of Nollywood just representing everybody making films in Nigeria. I think if we keep it that simple, then it's just as simple as that,
Okay, that's actually a really good answer, actually. So very quickly, we've got 3 minutes. I mean, those are 2 questions we had, so we've still got time to answer the other 2 questions. The final question: what are the obstacles facing Nigerian cinema today? Anybody else want to chip in? Michael gave a great answer. I think we've got about 10 minutes left, or about 8 minutes left. So anybody like to have a go? What do you think?
It's a very large. Hi, let me come in very quickly if you don't mind. I'll try and keep it as short and concise as possible. But I am a Nigerian, and if you give me a microphone, I'll talk for forever. You understand? Anyway, one of the areas that I see that raises caution with me is the sort of gentrification and the professionalization of the industry. It's great, do you understand? But if all of a sudden now it's about, fantastic buildings and a lavish lifestyle, just like Mykel mentioned, we start going away, we start losing a very large audience, at the end of the day, by doing that, if we start to serve the middle classes, we start to serve the upper classes, and nobody remembers the masses. And the masses, when it comes to empathy and sympathy in movies, that is one of the things that drove Nollywood. So I am really, 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 I have a strong passion to tell the story. People in Lagos wake up at 3 o'clock because they have to get to work on the island. Yes, and they spend 2.5 hours, 3.5 hours. They get to work, These are stories of what is happening, real life stories. And as was mentioned earlier, Going to work is a universal theme, just like having a brother or a sister. So when we actually show what's actually going on for us Nigerians, not just the middle classes and the upper classes, then I think we will get empathy with a universal audience. And so that's my caution. You know, we mustn't forget to tell the stories of every day that happen.
Yeah.
You know, and as an artist, and I'll just quickly on auteur and business, it's always a battle. It's always a battle. Am I going to do my art? Yeah. And then I don't make any money? Or is it just going to be about money and then I don't care about art? Well, that's a battle that's been ongoing in the art world for years. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to chip in again because I've just got another question which has popped up from Liz Jones. And she says, I'm involved in teaching students production. If there were students in the US who were interested in coming to Nigeria to get experience in the Nigerian industry, is that something easy to do? How would students who wanted to learn the Nigerian industry find opportunities?
Yeah, I think one thing that can happen is very simple. Find out about the festivals that are happening. They can register to attend the festivals, and then if we're expecting them, then we can host them, and they're around, and we take care of them when they're around. And yeah, so if the best way to experience Nigerian cinema is in the gathering of Nigerian filmmakers who are gathered together in one place to watch, discuss, critique, and appraise films. So if you're there where everybody is and you meet everybody at the same time, I don't think there's a better place. And if you deserve if you require some kind of training, I think again, and I'm not saying this out of pride, I think there's a lot that even the film schools in the US and the UK and everywhere have to learn from Nigeria. There's a Nigerian way of making films. Is that way of nothing can stand in our way. Not HMI, not aperture light, not the latest lens, nothing can stand in our way. And we work super fast and we multitask and we all work together to get the job done. There's a lot. I think there's a Nigerian spirit that goes into the Nigerian way of making movies. That is what you can come and learn. The best way to learn it and to have the exposure is during the gatherings. There's Real Time Film Festival, which I run. There's AFRIF, which is one of the biggest film festivals in Africa. There's the Ajaere Festival for documentary. There are a lot of festivals. We can share all those details. But if they indicate interest in attending these festivals, we do it every year. We host a lot of people from all over the world. So it's something that can be worked into the schedule. But if you let us know early enough, we'll make it happen. Yeah.
It's a good answer because one of the things I said at the beginning was less is more, and that how in Nigeria we're able to make films with the minimal amount of equipment in the shortest amount of time and still come out, good stories and decent quality. And maybe there's something to be said about students coming over to Nigeria, like you said, Stanley, and learning how we make films with less. We still have good equipment and still technicians and all that stuff, but we still tend to do it a bit quicker and faster, and we're able to utilize what we have to still produce quality films. I'm aware I think we've got 5 minutes left, and then we're going to get kicked off. So I'm going to quickly ask you, here's a question for you all. One film you would recommend that someone who's never watched a film in Nollywood or never watched a Nigerian film, what one film would you recommend they watch and why? One for all of you.
I think they should just go on Netflix and check the Nigerian movie.
That's the
answer.
That's not an answer, Stanley.
That's the answer.
There's about 20 films on Netflix.
That's the answer.
No, that's the lazy answer. Come on, pick a film. One film you recommend what? Okay, pick a film from Netflix then, if you want to. But one film you'd recommend our audience.
I think the person should go and watch. They should see Adekunle because it's a very cultural movie, very rich in culture and all of that. Let them have their own views and their opinions, but Adekunle is good to watch. In terms of pop movie, like, really pop, futuristic and contemporary, they should go and see Shantytown that's showing right now. Come on, guys, go and see it. But again, beyond that, go and see Brotherhood by Jade Osibere. Brotherhood is an amazing movie. Okay. Yeah, Shantytown and Brotherhood, they are my kind of fame, so I don't want to be biased, but yeah, they are thoroughly well-made movies. by all standards. No movie is perfect, but they are very good movies by all standards. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Who else? Who come?
I think if they also want to understand a bit of Nigeria, they can see 76. It's an old movie, but it's also a good movie that they can learn a lot from. But it's great. It's great. There's like Stanley said, the opportunities are there for them to visit Nigeria and learn, because one of the things that you learn from Nigeria is how to be innovative, get something done with nothing, and do the magic.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're waiting for the underwater camera case, and then someone brings another suggestion, or you want to create rain, and you're waiting for the magic to be done, set up equipment. There's several ways that Nigerians create these things that even Hollywood would be wild.
Yeah.
You come and set to Nigeria, and someone is working without a focus puller, and it comes out with amazing shots. You'll be blown away. So Nigeria is a place where you learn to be innovative, and then you understand what it means to be, what it means to be a passionate filmmaker, and then now we're all learning how to make money from film. In the past, it wasn't like that. So we're combining the passion and the business. These days, I'm more focused on the business of film because, it's important that we also make money to sustain the business, money to sustain the passion. So this is the focus now. With time, we would all be able to converge again next few years and say, a few years back, we talked about Nollywood, becoming a global sensation like the music industry. Right now, we've won an Oscars, we're getting big deals, the budgets are bigger, and then, the audience are now, really available for us to explore.
Okay. Thank you, Mykel. Very quickly, Frank and Kelechi, what film would you recommend? We've got about
I will recommend Wedding Party 1.
Wedding Party.
If they want to see what it's like to be in a Nigeria setting wedding.
Okay.
Wedding Party 1.
Thank you. Frank?
Okay. I'm going to recommend a movie that our own Tunji lends, and it's called Ojuju. Because it's a very haute kind of artistic kind of movie. I love horror movies. And also, I recommend going to watch Mami Water. I'm interested to watch what there'll be a journey, a difference between Ojuju and Mami Water.
Okay. I think literally that's 4 o'clock on the dot. Your timing is perfect, which is wonderful for us Nigerians because we're not known for our timing, as usual. So you hit it nail on the head. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you to Kelechi, Mykel, Frank, and Stanley for.
You need to find out why Stanley keeps going off. It seems he keeps going off to shoot a scene.
He keeps going.
Stanley, you keep going to shoot a scene and then you come back.
He's going for
10 scenes in a minute.
Once the road, Stanley goes off, he goes to shoot the scene and he comes back.
Show us, Stanley, show us what's going on behind the camera.
I think you got very long, so people are going to get cut off very soon. So whatever it is, yeah. Thank you so much.
Chris, are you there?
You don't hear you. Blessing, come and say hi now. So let me introduce you to Blessing, who's the director of this movie. Where you doing? Show now, they want to just say hi to you now. Why shall you shy? Come.
Don't hide yourself, fool. Don't hide.
You have to be very quick. I think we're going to cut up for in the next few seconds. So I was going to say hello.
Okay, I should come inside. Sorry, you can't just barge into a room with a woman. You have to be very careful.
Make yourself presentable.
I'm going. Good evening. How are you?
My schedule for tomorrow.
I know you now.
Hi.
I know that face.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna have to ask you to. I'm afraid I'm gonna have to go now. I've got to. But thank you so much for coming.
So much.
Peace, guys. Yeah, he was there.
Thanks, Tunji. Thanks, Mykel.
Thank you, everyone. I'm just going to read. Oh, we've lost our slide. It seems to have disappeared. Okay, here it is. So for thank you for everyone who attended today's event. Hopefully we can do this again. We've got lots of ideas about talking about Nigerian and African cinema. So our next COMtalk event is called Off the Beaten Path, about less traditional com careers. And that sounds really exciting. It's on Wednesday, March 16th at 3 p.m. So hope to see lots of you there then. And for those of you who attended this event, thank you very much for being here. And special thanks to our guests. If you're still there, we should give you an electronic round of applause for your work. Thank you.